Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're diving into one of the most controversial figures in modern history, Jeffrey Epstein. His name has become synonymous with scandal, conspiracy, and a story that many still struggle to fully understand. From the shocking details of his criminal activities to the theories that have circulated since his death, Epstein's case has captured the world's attention. His arrest in 2019 and subsequent death in 2019 only deepened the mystery surrounding him. In this video, we will attempt to break down the truth behind the shocking allegations, as well as the strange and disturbing rumors that have spread about him. We'll examine the facts, investigate the theories, and dive into the legal aftermath, shedding light on the impact of his actions and the ongoing fight for justice. Jeffrey Epstein was born on January 20, 1953, in Brooklyn, New York. Despite his later status as a billionaire financier and a socialite surrounded by the world's most influential people, Epstein's early life was relatively unremarkable. He grew up in a middle-class family in Brooklyn, with his father working as a groundskeeper and his mother as a school aide. Not much is known about Epstein's early years, but his rise to power began when he secured a teaching position at the Dalton School, a prestigious private school in Manhattan, without a college degree. It was there that he began to make the connections that would eventually lead to his wealth and infamy. Epstein's move into the world of finance came when he joined Bear Stearns, an investment bank in the 1970s. He quickly gained a reputation for his sharp intellect and an ability to manipulate financial markets. His skill in networking, combined with his growing reputation, led him to establish his own firm, J. Epstein & Co., where he catered exclusively to the ultra-wealthy, managing their assets. What made Epstein so successful, and perhaps more concerning, was the mystery behind the sources of his fortune. Little is known about how Epstein accumulated his wealth, and he was secretive about the clients he worked with. This secrecy would play a crucial role in the conspiracy theories that would later surround him. Many wondered how someone with such little formal education could rise to such a high level of financial success, and many believed that Epstein had access to information, connections, or opportunities that were beyond the ordinary. As Epstein's wealth grew, so did his power and influence. He became a fixture in the social circles of the elite, with friends including former presidents, British royalty, tech moguls, and Hollywood celebrities. His private island in the U.S. Virgin Islands, Little St. James, became infamous for its association with Epstein's criminal activities, where many of his abuses were alleged to have taken place. He also owned a massive mansion in Manhattan, a private jet, and a sprawling ranch in New Mexico. These properties were more than just luxurious estates. They were the epicenters of Epstein's dark operations, where his network of recruiters, victims, and wealthy clients operated. Epstein's criminal activities remained mostly under the radar for years, despite whispers and rumors surrounding his lavish lifestyle and social connections. In 2008, Epstein was convicted of soliciting sex from a minor and was sentenced to a mere 13-month prison sentence. This conviction, however, was part of a controversial plea deal that many felt was a miscarriage of justice. The deal allowed Epstein to serve his sentence in a private wing of the Palm Beach County Jail, where he had access to his office, phone, and computer. He was released during the day and allowed to go to work, and his sentence was considered incredibly lenient, especially given the gravity of the crimes he was accused of. Many saw this as proof of Epstein's ability to manipulate the legal system, using his wealth and connections to avoid facing the full consequences of his actions. Despite the 2008 conviction, Epstein continued to operate with impunity, using his influence to stay above the law. It wasn't until 2019, after years of growing pressure from victims and journalists, that Epstein's criminal activities were finally exposed. In July 2019, Epstein was arrested once again, this time on federal charges of sex trafficking minors. The charges were more severe, and this time the investigation was fully in the public eye. As the details emerged, it became clear that Epstein had orchestrated a vast trafficking network, recruiting young girls for sex, and using his wealth and connections to facilitate the abuse. Many of these girls were allegedly manipulated and coerced into participating, and many of them were promised money, jobs, or a better life in exchange for their cooperation. This revelation was shocking to the public, but it was also the moment many had been waiting for, the moment when Epstein would finally be held accountable for his crimes. However, Epstein's story took another unexpected turn when, on August 10, 2019, just a month after his arrest, he was found dead in his jail cell. The official cause of death was ruled as suicide by hanging, but the circumstances surrounding his death have been the subject of intense scrutiny and speculation. Epstein's death occurred at a time when he was facing multiple federal charges and was expected to testify about the involvement of powerful figures in his crimes. The timing of his death, coupled with the lapses in security at the jail where he was being held, fueled a host of conspiracy theories suggesting that Epstein was silenced to prevent him from revealing compromising information. The prison had reportedly malfunctioning cameras, and the guards tasked with monitoring Epstein were found asleep or falsifying records. This only added fuel to the fire, and many people began to question whether Epstein's death was truly a suicide, or whether it had been orchestrated to prevent him from testifying. Epstein's death created a vacuum, and in the absence of his testimony, the conspiracy theories grew. Some believed that Epstein had been murdered to protect powerful individuals who were involved in his criminal network. Others suggested that Epstein had faked his own death and was living in hiding. These theories spread quickly on social media and were further amplified by the public's distrust in the justice system. Epstein's case became a focal point for those who believed that the rich and powerful were able to manipulate the system to evade justice, and that Epstein's death was part of a larger conspiracy to protect those in power. Despite Epstein's death, the investigation into his network did not end. In 2020, Ghislaine Maxwell, a close associate of Epstein, was arrested and charged with assisting him in his sex trafficking operation. Maxwell, a British socialite, had been a key figure in Epstein's life and was accused of helping him recruit and abuse young girls. Her trial in 2021 shed light on the extent of Epstein's criminal activities, and Maxwell was convicted of sex trafficking minors and sentenced to 20 years in prison. Maxwell's conviction was seen as a victory for the victims, but many believe that the case is far from over. The question remains: who else was involved in Epstein's crimes, and how many more people are yet to be held accountable? Epstein's death left many questions unanswered. Despite the legal victories in Maxwell's case, there are still many who believe that the full scope of Epstein's crimes has not been revealed. The investigation continues, and new evidence and survivors continue to come forward, shedding light on the dark and twisted world that Epstein built. The fight for justice for Epstein's victims remains ongoing, and many are determined to ensure that those who helped him maintain his empire of abuse are held accountable. As we look back at Epstein's life and the aftermath of his arrest and death, we are faced with uncomfortable truths about the ways in which wealth, power, and influence can be used to evade justice. Epstein's case highlights the systemic failures that allowed his crimes to continue for so long, and it forces us to confront the reality of how those in positions of power can exploit their status to avoid facing consequences. But it also serves as a reminder that the pursuit of justice must continue, no matter how difficult or how long it takes. The survivors of Epstein's abuse deserve justice, and we must continue to demand accountability for those who were complicit in his crimes. Thank you for watching today's video. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth explorations of complex and controversial stories. If you have any thoughts or comments, leave them below. We want to hear from you. Your voice matters in the fight for justice and accountability. In July 2019, Epstein was arrested on charges of sex trafficking minors in New York and Florida. The charges were damning, and they revealed the full extent of Epstein's criminal network. Federal prosecutors disclosed that Epstein had been running an extensive operation that involved recruiting young girls, many of whom were underage, for sex. The situation was not isolated to just a few victims or incidents. Rather, it was an entire, far-reaching network that spanned across multiple countries. Epstein had orchestrated a system where young girls were manipulated, coerced, and sometimes forced into sexual acts. Many of the girls were promised money, opportunities, or jobs, but they were instead exploited and subjected to horrific abuse. As the investigation into his crimes continued, the public was shocked to learn that Epstein's trafficking ring involved a network of women who acted as recruiters, further entrenching his involvement with powerful figures who were allegedly complicit in these crimes. However, just a little over a month after his arrest, on August 10, 2019, Epstein was found dead in his prison cell. His death was officially ruled a suicide by hanging, but the circumstances surrounding it immediately sparked suspicion. At the time of his death, Epstein was still awaiting trial for the charges against him, and his case had already drawn massive media attention. Many people started questioning whether Epstein's death was truly a suicide, or if there was something more to the story. The timing of his death raised even more doubts, as it occurred while he was facing significant legal consequences, and crucially, had been reportedly preparing to name powerful individuals who had allegedly been involved in his criminal activities. Some conspiracy theorists believe that Epstein's death was not an unfortunate act of suicide, but rather a carefully planned execution orchestrated to silence him before he could testify or provide critical information about those who had enabled his trafficking ring. The prison where Epstein was held, the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York, was plagued by a series of lapses in protocol. Key evidence, such as security footage, was reportedly missing or corrupted, and the guards responsible for monitoring Epstein failed to follow proper procedures. These irregularities led many to suspect foul play. Several reports indicated that the cameras malfunctioned, and guards either falsified records or fell asleep during their shifts. The circumstances surrounding these failures only deepened the belief among some that Epstein's death was not the result of a suicide, but a deliberate act designed to prevent him from revealing sensitive information that could expose those in power. While Epstein's death added an additional layer of mystery and intrigue to his case, it also opened the door for an array of conspiracy theories. Some of the most disturbing and outlandish theories that emerged claimed that Epstein was involved in cannibalism. According to some fringe sources, references to cannibalism appeared in court documents, testimonies, and rumors about Epstein's operations. These unverified and sensationalized claims suggested that Epstein had participated in bizarre rituals, occult-like parties, and even human consumption. Some theorists took this further, suggesting that Epstein had engaged in eating human flesh. As the theories spread, they gained traction in certain circles, especially in the aftermath of his death. Many were looking for an explanation to the darkness that seemed to surround Epstein's life, and some turned to these disturbing allegations as a way to make sense of the mysteries surrounding him. However, it's crucial to approach these claims with skepticism and caution. While it is undeniable that Epstein's life was filled with strange and often disturbing details, there is no credible evidence to suggest that he was involved in cannibalism. Theories involving human consumption are largely based on rumors and fringe sources that have not been substantiated by any reliable evidence. In fact, these claims appear to be part of a broader narrative that associates Epstein with extreme and unverified conspiracy theories. These sensationalized theories exploit the public's fascination with the bizarre and gruesome, but they detract from the real issues at hand: Epstein's actual crimes, his vast network of exploitation, and the systemic abuse that he enabled over many years. Epstein's criminal activities, particularly his sex trafficking operation, were heinous enough on their own. There is no need to resort to sensationalized rumors about cannibalism or occult practices when the documented crimes that Epstein was responsible for are already deeply disturbing. Most of the claims about Epstein's involvement in cannibalism or occult rituals have been debunked or remain unsupported by credible evidence. It's essential to separate fact from fiction and focus on the verified details of Epstein's case, which clearly reveal the true scope of his abuses. The real tragedy lies in the countless victims he exploited and manipulated, and these survivors deserve justice. We must ensure that the investigation continues to focus on the proven facts and hold accountable those who were truly complicit in Epstein's network, rather than getting distracted by speculative and unfounded theories. In conclusion, while Epstein's life and death will likely continue to be the subject of public fascination and conspiracy theories, it's important to stay grounded in reality and focus on the known facts. Epstein's criminal operations were vast and disturbing, and the fight for justice for his victims is far from over. While theories involving cannibalism and other sensational claims may capture attention, they do little to address the very real and pressing need to uncover the full extent of Epstein's network and hold those responsible accountable. The truth is still unfolding, and the pursuit of justice must remain at the forefront of the conversation. As the investigation into Epstein continued after his death, more victims came forward, bravely sharing their stories of abuse. These survivors became key to exposing the full extent of Epstein's operations. Their testimony, often painful and raw, painted a disturbing picture of the trafficking ring Epstein had orchestrated and the powerful individuals who were allegedly involved. But Epstein was not the only figure in this web of exploitation. Other individuals within his network were eventually brought to justice, the most notable being Ghislaine Maxwell. Maxwell, a British socialite and close associate of Epstein, had long been a central figure in the case. She was arrested in 2020 and charged with helping Epstein recruit, groom, and sexually abuse minors. Maxwell's role in Epstein's network was significant. She had acted as a recruiter and often arranged for the abuse to take place. Her trial, which concluded in December 2021, brought some measure of justice to the survivors of Epstein's abuse. Maxwell was convicted of sex trafficking minors, and she was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Her conviction was a significant step forward in holding Epstein's associates accountable, but it also left many with a sense that the story was far from over. While Maxwell's conviction was a critical moment in the fight for justice, many still believe there are others who played a role in Epstein's crimes. These individuals, whether out of fear or complicity, have yet to be fully investigated or prosecuted. Some of the most powerful figures in the world were connected to Epstein in some way, and the public is still waiting for more names to come to light. The legal proceedings surrounding Epstein's case are ongoing, with survivors and their advocates demanding greater accountability. As the investigation continues, there are still many unanswered questions about just how far-reaching Epstein's trafficking network was and how many people were involved in enabling his operations. The case has prompted widespread calls for transparency and accountability, especially among the powerful individuals and institutions that may have helped cover up Epstein's crimes. While Maxwell's conviction was a step forward, many question whether the justice system will truly deliver a complete reckoning. Will the powerful figures involved in Epstein's network face justice, or will they continue to evade scrutiny? These questions remain at the heart of the ongoing investigation, and the legal battle for Epstein's survivors is far from over. As we look at the aftermath of Epstein's death and the ongoing legal proceedings, it is clear that his story is far from finished. The survivors, many of whom continue to seek justice, are still fighting for their voices to be heard and for their abusers to be held accountable. Epstein's crimes were horrific, and the damage caused by his actions is immeasurable. But what is equally troubling is the extent to which the abuse and exploitation of vulnerable young women continued under the radar for so long, shielded by wealth, power, and influence. The full scope of Epstein's network is still not entirely understood, and many people are hoping that, as investigations progress, more of the truth will be uncovered. The story of Jeffrey Epstein is not just a story about one man's crimes. It is a story about the systemic failures of power, corruption, and the lengths to which some individuals will go to evade justice. It is about how wealthy and influential people can manipulate the legal system to protect themselves, and about how their victims, often voiceless and vulnerable, are left fighting for justice. It is also a story about survival and resilience. The survivors of Epstein's abuse continue to push for accountability, despite the many obstacles they face. Their courage is a reminder that the fight for justice is never truly over, no matter how high the stakes are or how much resistance they face. It is also a reminder to all of us that we must remain vigilant in holding those in power accountable, no matter how rich, famous, or influential they may be. The case of Epstein should serve as a wake-up call, urging us to examine the ways in which systems of power are used to exploit and abuse. We must continue to demand justice for those who have been wronged, and we must continue to seek the truth, no matter how uncomfortable or inconvenient it may be. The story of Epstein is far from over, and as long as there is still a fight for justice, we must continue to stand with the survivors. Thank you for watching today's video. If you found this content insightful, please like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth explorations of the world's most complex and controversial stories. If you have any thoughts or comments, leave them below. We want to hear from you. Your voice matters in the fight for justice and accountability. Let's keep pushing for truth, for transparency, and for the protection of the most vulnerable among us.